few things, discuss the rates and ordinance and everything. But Charlie, you can have the floor.
Okay. On the water system, 3 years ago, we worked and went through rural development to get a rate, a budget set up through the water project improvements. We had a estimated income of $114,000 that has not been met. Water usage was expected to be 35,000 gallons a day, which was at that time what all the sales were. And that didn't account for the water the city had been using, they're now paying for, and it did not account for the flushing and stuff that was being done. Current readings are only averaging 23 to 25,000 gallons a day, water purchased from the water district. We're losing 10 to 12,000 gallons of sales per day, or about $15,000 per year. Without those sales and without the usage, you can't meet your fixed cost that's required in the ordinance, being the debt, the bond reserve, the fixed assets replacement account, and then your labor and electricity that makes to be done. I worked with Annette and Joanne and went back through the figures for 3 or 4 months last year in the summer, and then again this last fall. And the projection that you see on there shows the budget as we feel it will be now with everything we have, including if we have to put chlorination on the system as DNR has mandated at this time, taking the total cost of operations up to $129,450. You have 214 water users, and I allowed for a fixed cost on them, including 1,000 gallons, of $23 a month. Subtracted that off the total amount of $129,450 we needed, and divided it by the sales of water at 25,000 gallons a day, and that came up to be $10.73 per thousand. I rounded it to $10.75. That will provide you with the funds for everything that we need to operate as was outlined if the water sales do not go up. We're in hopes that once this chlorination issue is settled, or if we get the problem taken care of out there, that people will start using more water as we go into the summer and they have a chance to use more. Maybe the sales will go up. But right now, for the last year and the budget you have now, you are having to borrow money from other accounts to even break even.
Is there a gap between the water bill from the county versus what we're metering, as far as if there's undetectable leaks?
The last time I checked it for 2 different months, you were actually being billed less than what your sales were. That could be inconsistency in the meters between what they have out there. It could be an inconsistency in the height of the tower at the time it's being read, the tower maybe not being full or over full. But no, it's running really, really good. There's not much of a gap in it. However, on that same note, when the district first negotiated this contract with you guys, we had a price of $3.95 per thousand gallons. Before the project was finished, they had already increased that the first year up to $4.70. So that cut us back and put us a little bit on the backside, just even going into the water purchase.
So there's not a gap of money water that we're losing then?
No, not that I found anything that Ned has on the totals provided the water district and what we're losing.
Okay, and then when there's flushing or draining a tower and filling it, you count it for those, I guess.
We try to. As you can imagine, you don't have the exact amount when you're flushing. Dennis meters all of his, but in some of the cases where we had the tower and no meter reading on it, flushing out the hydrant in the back, we couldn't tell exactly, but we did estimate those to make sure what it was. And we did have to drain the tank twice, once just for cleaning and once for repairs, of which we got reimbursed back from Caldwell on that because it was their problem.
That was under warranty?
Yes.
And they accepted it because it was their fault, it was
the first contractor was in for them, did not get the floor down against the sand on the bottom as they should have. When we emptied it, the floor came up off of it, and then it went back down, it separated and broke around the pipes, the fill and the discharge pipe. It's a common construction method, they just did not get it in place right. So the new person came in to fix it, they got heavier knuckles to go around it, made special plates, re-welded it to hold it, and got it pushed down with jacks to the point that it needed to be to hold it in place. The mayor may provide you more information on it. We are working with DNR. You have an abatement order. We've got to get a compliance into them in the next couple of weeks for the chlorination. At this time, we think we found a potential source that may have been the contaminant. We've already notified DNR. We're working on that with the supplier of the control valve that's on the inlet side of the tank, trying to get some answers. There's a possibility we may still get out of that and do the chlorination. But at this time, we can't guarantee that, so I think this budget and this rate needs to be established to cover yourself, even if we can come back in a short period and say, okay, our reserves are doing good, the water sales are up, and you guys can adjust it. You need to look at it every year and adjust it one way or the other anyway to make sure that things are staying stable.
We haven't, since we put it in 2010, it's the first time.
Correct.
I was looking at the water department receipts where we bring in, and if they fluctuate from 7 to 10,000 on receipts. I don't understand why. And then disbursements go from 10 to 18,000. So I was trying to make sense of that.
We've had some cost in this compliance order with DNR that we adjusted some of those months. We had engineering fees in doing the study and getting the compliance back to DNR that would have showed up just on 1 or 2 months. It wouldn't be on every one. These that I have in your budget here are normal expenses throughout the year without anything else going wrong.
Do we have the short-lived asset as a backup?
Yes, Joanne has been funding that, and that's for all mechanical equipment, even down through the meters, for those to be replaced on a timely manner.
Anybody else got any questions out there?
I perfectly understand.
When will we find out for sure if we need to chlorinate? I mean, how long is that going to
Well, can I answer that?
Sure.
Right now, it's mandated, so whatever,
So we're going to have to do it.
we're gonna have to do it no matter what, unless DNR comes back and says.
We're gonna have to, right now, we're gonna have to.
As far as I know,
Do I have to do it now?
as far as I know, and as far as anybody else, it's mandated that we will chlorinate, so, if they come back, that's a plus. If they don't, well, then we're still gonna have to install it.
Well, let me interject something there. Right now, the schedule of compliance is that we have to have a plan into them within 30 days of the time the mayor signed this compliance order. In the meantime, before we have to do the hard construction of that and put it in, we're going to keep working with DNR. We're going to send the plan in, keep you guys in compliance, saying this is what we'll do if we have to do it. At the same time, note to them, we're hoping we don't have to. We think we found a source of the contaminant, and we're going to fix it like this means, and then see what happens. But in the meantime, financing needs to be laid out. We need to plan into DNR for approval, and before we start any design or do anything, we'll try to get this solved. It may take a couple months before they'll give us the leeway to say, okay, let's do some more testing now.
Right.
Okay.
Where is this potential area that you're looking at where the contamination
pit on the inlet to the standpipe.
Right at the water tower.
It was a closed valve system when it was put in. It was not operating properly. When the contractor was here, he called the manufacturer. They told him to vent it to air to let it escape. The drain in the bottom of that plugged up. It did fill up with water. Not sure if it's exactly the same time or whatever, but more than likely that water got into that valve during its operation and got right into the standpipe. A week and a half ago, I asked Dennis to get a plate count on the coliform that was in it, and it came back 450. He took another one this week to see if it was gluten going down. It's down to 44. Last night, we put 2 gallons of bleach in it. Carl's crew did, and they flushed some this morning and stirred it and refilled. Next week, a week after, we're going to have an answer to it. They have fixed the pit with drainage around it so water cannot get right into it, sealed a conduit hole in it, and they're digging a drain ditch away from it so water can get away. We're contacting the manufacturer to find out if we put a check valve and a screen on that, if it's only a one-way flow, so that it wouldn't hurt anything if we could put a directional check valve on it so it cannot get back into it. I'm hoping to have that answer tomorrow. I took pictures tonight to send to them so that they can look at the valve, see exactly what they have.
That's a pretty drastic job.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's good.
Yes,
it's
we
a
do.
real good job.
That was without any treatment.
Yes.
That was just good water running in.
That's very well taken.
That's it. Telling you there wasn't nothing in the tire itself.
We had always discussed the fact we had 2 sources. It was either coming in the water, we came in and got a slug, or we had something like this. And Carl and I went up there 2 weeks ago and popped that valve. It had never been inspected since this time. Found this open pipe, and we started researching with the valve company to see what it might be. I really believe that's the source for contamination. And I know DNR will work with us if we can prove that. It's just a matter of time to get it proved.
Are you gonna be able to prove it though?
I think so. I think we do that just our testing and stuff that we're doing. But we gotta prevent the fact that it might happen again. We don't want it to
Right.
reoccur.
Right.
This tank has just been disinfected and flushed, and all of a sudden here we come back with contaminant right off the bat. That was a shocker.
Right.
So, but it was a lot of rain. That pit does show signs it was saturated water. The water did fill up in it. There's not much doubt in my mind that water got back in that pipe even was sucked in.
But to answer your first question, we have to operate right now that we're going to coordinate. Right now, we're under a mandate order. We're going to do everything in our power to keep from it.
Right.
But we still have to operate until they say no. We can't wait. Because there's a lot of things that have to go and be done. But right now, we have to operate as we're going to coordinate.
Now, how much time will they give you? Like if the problem's not solved, how long
We
of
have to be
time will we
completely set
have?
up in 180 days.
180 days, they won't have a chlorine on there.
But we have to have a program within 30 days of how we're going to do it.
And they have to approve that plan before we do the design. If you have no more questions on the water, this same thing leads into the sewer. And as you know, we've got a UV disinfection requirement from DNR that we have to do, and it's supposed to be done like this fall. We did get extension out into next year for that. One of the requirements that RD has on our funding is we got to do a ordinance on it also, showing what the cost is going to be and how we're going to operate. When I did the report, I had done the report based on the $35,000 that we had at the same time. If the flow stay down the same way and we're charging off the water meters, we're only charging $25,000, we still have these fixed costs. Right now, you only have a revenue of about $55,000 to $60,000 a year on your sewer. We've got $95,000 to operate it. That's to do the replacement account, fixed asset. They want to pay the new debt on it. The new debt substantial is $325,000. And then all the other operation costs we would have with the UV and the replacement of the bulbs, so many a year. So there is a draft copy of that also that I'm going to send by our development to have Donna look at it, make sure it's in order, and then we'll be coming back to you guys for review and approval of that also, so we can get it adopted. It does not have to be enacted until such time as we do the sewer work and have the debt sub incurred, but we have to adopt it and have it ready through RD as one of their checklists.
funding of this comes from?
It's part of your bond issue that was passed.
We already paid for in 2007, that we approved
You
in
did, you approved,
2007.
right. We sold $525,000 on the water, we got $325,000 plus $177,000 grant from RD to do the UV and the repairs to the plant.
So we would need to raise the sewer rates then.
We will need to raise the sewer rates.
We will,
Yes,
because
of that extra debt of $325,000. The operating costs are gonna go up about $40,000 a year for everything on it. I had projected, I think, $7 a month average rate increase for the sewer, when I did the projection just for debt and income and projection for the water, or the sales that we had.
how much did you say? How much did you say?
That I had projected, $7,
$7 a month?
but it's gonna be more. The ordinance that you have there has an appendix attached to the back, appendix A and appendix B. B is the replacement account schedule that's required by RD that we have to have the money to take care of it. But the $95,000 shown on appendix A is going to require that you keep your minimum bill as you have it now at $10.55, and we're going to charge $7.50 per 1,000 gallons of water usage after the minimum of zero. Right now, it's $10.55 and $5.
So electric would cost us $11,000 a year roughly.
That's about what you guys are paying right now, and it's gonna go up slightly because of the use of the UV. That has to be run from April 15th to October 8th, I believe the schedule of it is.
April to October. So, April 8th is the first reporting period for the
So you don't have to run that so many months out of the year.
6 months, just during the time that you might have whole body contact in the downstream area.
Oh, okay, that's what.
The rest of the time, you go and operate as you do the plant normal discharge. The fecal coal form has to be dropped down to less than 400 colonies, I believe.
Right, it's $100, that's $100 a month, 100 colonies per month, if you go, that you're allowed on your permit.
This ordinance is not prepared for you guys to do any action on right now. I want to get it passed on and back to you, but I want to get it in your hands so you can review it. The project is ready to move real fast. Donna has made the commitment of funds for it. You own the property, it's just a title opinion, stuff needs to be done, we're not have to get any easements. So we can get back online real quickly, I think, to get it under construction at least this fall. If we do, then we're in compliance with DNR by next spring to be able to use the UV and have our testing all done next summer.
And that's also mandated.
Yes, sir. The UV and the disinfection and most of the repairs that are needed down there are mandated through your last permit. And they had us up scheduled to have that done at this time because RD wouldn't give us the funding until the water project got done. We couldn't do anything. So we wrote a letter to DNR and asked for an extension of time on it, which they did grant out to 2013 to give us time to get this funding together and the construction completed.
This won't affect the sludge hauling that we have to do.
I put cost in for that.
I know, I was
also.
just saying that when we get this in place, will we still have to haul away sludge?
Oh, yes. That's part of your activated sludge process up front. You'll always have that.
Okay, so what we're adding to and upgrading isn't going to do away with that?
No, we're doing a better basin to allow for pumping out of it where the drying beds are that you're using. We're gonna put in regular concrete basins there to facilitate getting sludge held and out, but you'll still have a hauling cost.
Is it gonna be flow meter going into the sewer line?
Okay, what?
Flow meter.
Yes. sensor. Every bit of flow goes out, let you know what it is.
The old, that trouble with it.
That make,
Is it-
yeah, it always get.
Yeah, we fixed it once and all of a sudden it wasn't working again.
Yep,
But it's so erratic on the influence, you get a good amount because it was all being pumped in. The effluent's pretty consistent, it equalized out through it.
right.
And that is in the project to get that fixed.
If we were to, instead of have the sludge hauled away, let farmers take it and put it on their crops, or the land to grow crops,
We tried that one, we discussed it, when I worked here. The permits they have to get, and we have to get.
They have to get their
They
soil
can't be by a
tested.
creek, they can't be by a river. You
Yeah,
can't
they have to
test it.
supply you the same information as you would do if you were land applying it directly.
Right.
Which means you have to take a test on the soil out there, show what you're adding to it, keep buffers on.
Right.
The whole 9 yards.
It's a whole lot of.
It is a lot of trouble.
And it's restricted by the crops and the animals that you put on that land that you put on. Certain timetable, you can't put anything on, you can't get paid off for a while.
We did check into that. I did.
well, Jay Wilson had talked about it.
We did.
We don't have enough farmers around here anyway that would want it.
There was a few variables, we tried it, and that got way more.
Way more trouble.
There's some farmers up north that take the effluent off the plants and irrigate their corn crops and stuff, just to spray irrigation. But what they're taking is the effluent off because they have a problem with the discharge. They don't have sludge and anything to worry about there. They're just heading out lagoons, taking the effluent, works great. But this sludge, you have to test it for contaminants, can't have any metals, can't have any problems in it, any pesticides. All becomes a problem when they take it out there. They have to test the same way.
Yep.
We started out trying to do that, didn't work.
Absolutely.
Any more questions? Charlie, I guess you can go to Robert.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
I will let you know what Donna says once I pass this by her and get the stuff into her hands.
We'll probably have to make a special, do it for sometime this month. You get mine, just do it sometime.
Well, yeah, we need the first reading, her approval, before you want to do the second reading, and then that way we can submit it to her as adopted and take that off the checklist. I'm hoping that they'll approve the plans from DNR, we can get a permit here real quickly, RD will do the same thing. Maybe by July or August, we can be bidding this and get the project started this fall for whether it's real bad. Thank you.
Charlie, be safe.
Okay, you guys work on, what are you gonna work on?
I noticed on water, we're 7,600 or something in the red. But the treasurer's report says we've used 80% of our budget.
Well, that's right. You have to use 80% of the budget, but the money's not coming in to substantiate that budget. Even though you're using that much of the budget, you don't have the money coming in. That's where the shortfall is. That's why we're having to raise the rates. But right now, that's shortage, we have to borrow from the sewer fund. They're both in the same account, we borrow that from the sewer.
What are you trying to say, Frank? We should raise the rates, or what are you trying to say? Are you trying to say we
I'm
should
trying
raise
to
the
figure
rates?
things out, that's all.
Yeah, well.
Well, you realize we have to raise the rates.
It's mandated.
And if you raise them, you gotta raise them enough to do the job. They don't need it halfway doing it, and come back 6 months and halfway doing it.
When was the last time that the water rates were raised in this town?
Well, the water rates were raised right last
So
year.
that's last year when
When we started. the
And how
project.
much were they raised? I mean, what was it?
I don't remember what they.
It wasn't very much, was it?
No, it wasn't much, so.
But
Well, that's always been our problem, even back years ago. We didn't want to raise them, we tried to operate without it, and things didn't get done. It should have been done, because if you kept trying to get out of raising water rates. They would recommend every year by all agencies, and we, as a board, we didn't want to put it on the people, because we hurt the people for not doing it.
Right,
Now I'm telling you, if it takes so much to operate, it takes it.
right.
Now, try to make it as cheap as you can, but you still got it, and it's mandated, a surplus. Now, I gotta pay the water bill just like everybody else. I gotta pay this sewer bill. They don't give me a gallon. And it hurts me too.
Right.
I can't go work overtime to get extra money. My income is fixed.
Well, Brenda, though, getting back to raising rates, the sewer rates haven't been raised in probably 8 or 9 years.
And how much did he say they were gonna go up? It was like,
From 5 something to 750, I believe.
750.
Yeah, it was 550 or something. going on.
1055 is the minimum, and then 750 for each 1,000 gallons. And
Which used to be 5 something.
used to be 5, and the minimum was always 1055.
Well, really, doing that. But, you know, for the sewer, that sewer plant is, I don't know, 23, 24 years old.
It was in 85.
And we've been, very little money we really haven't put out on that, but everything's outdated now. You know, what really burns you up, the government makes you do this, indeed, because somebody might fall in that river out there.
right.
That's considered a voting usage river. But we don't have much choice, I mean, that's the rules, that's the regulations, that's why we gotta put in the UV. But some of this work needs to be done, because it's getting more out too.
Right.
Go ahead, Buck.
I just told us, the rotor, does that have any plans on working on that, or? So remember, I think me and you were there last time. Anybody been down in that pit?
Oh, yeah, that was a long time.
That's a long time ago.
I had plans to do that, but we had to take it out. For one, there's no way for me to empty that out and keep it down while we inspect it or do any work to it. And it's quite an expense to have that done. We don't have the capability to put the mixed liquor somewhere while we're trying to inspect that pad out there.
What are we gonna do when the paddles come? That's what that.
Well, you got 2 paddles, you can work on one and try to keep one.
You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, and I already brought that up.
But we did discuss it, he wanted, but our uses prohibit buildings to clarify. You know, when you start talking about the uses, we,
But you know what I'm saying?
yeah, I know
I
exactly.
know exactly what you're saying, and
If it goes down, we're.
I do need a new
Me and you
shoe.
one of few people, and, I guess that seen the bottom of that thing since it was built.
Yeah, I know.
Back then, I started work early for the city.
I'd love to do it, I really would.
I give anything in the world, we don't, but I run my lessons for it, if you gotta do it, you gotta do it. When I go home on night, I'm gonna catch pictures myself, if anybody else goes home with their wife, or anybody that gives it to their husband, and when they read it in the paper, my wife don't understand. But I can sit and explain to her, but I can't explain to everybody, they could come and listen to some of it. And whatever Toby puts in the paper, he thinks it helps a lot, but it's something that has to be done. And but the average person at home don't understand that. Believe me, I hear it at home, and I'm gonna hear it tonight, as soon as I read. I've been beating around the bush, you know, a little bit, going up and down, and, you know, you're gonna have to, the fact that here, tomorrow, everybody's gonna know what it is.
And this,
Now, whether the sewer, most people won't, I guess they will, but I mean, the water is one from the past.
and the water rates will go in effect when?
It says in this ordinance, on the June billing.
So, see, we're only going to do the first week now.
Okay,
The next meeting, whether it be 2 weeks or next month, we'll do the second reading. Now, if we have a special, we'll do the second reading, and get this behind us and get it going. But it will be a first reading, the next meeting we have. Now, I'm not saying we have one tomorrow, I wouldn't do that. But
right,
it may be within 2 weeks, I don't hope to schedule anything, but probably in 2 weeks, if we have one for this sewer ordinance, then we'll pass that and do the first reading on the sewer. But we gotta get these moving, especially the sewer needs to be started. I'm only doing that because all I hear is people raising hell about 2 readings. It ain't gonna change the fact, this has gotta happen, this is mandated.
right.
I know it, everybody sitting here knows it, but I'm not gonna hear it no more about not having 2 readings. So I'm gonna have it, it just prolongs what has to happen. There will be times that we'll get some more that's gonna be done in one, it has to be. So time won't allow, but it's been possible there'd be 2 readings, 2 different meetings, readings.
Right.
But tonight, we're gonna do the first reading on them at the regular meeting.
And then you'll do the second one.
At the next meeting, whichever one it is, whether we have a special or the next month meeting.
Okay,
But I'm reasonably sure I'll be calling a special within 2 weeks to do this sewer.
On this chlorine debt, let's say we have the problem fixed, so we think, but they still require us to put it in. And we don't have to use it, so we don't have to use the chlorine to chlorinate the water, but in case we ever do, we can.
We will have, if we have to start up, we'll be putting something in.
I'm just
That
saying,
will be
It
going
won't
on.
be sitting there. It won't be sitting there, Frank.
When they mandate us the chlorine, even though there's no chloroform, there will be chlorine going to water. Lots of cities chlorine. If the number may decrease, the amount, that would be, that's dentist category, I don't know nothing about that. But what I do know will be chlorine,
so we'll be chlorinating no matter what.
no matter, if they make us chlorine. If they go like that now, we will be putting chlorine in this water. A safe amount.
But the amount will just,
I can't make that, you're out of my field, we had to talk to Dennis on that.
The minimum at the entry point where we inject it will be 0.5 parts per million, okay? Out in the system, it can be no less, a minimum of 0.2 in anywhere in the system that you check it. You have to have a residual of 0.2 as a minimum, okay? But at a minimum that you inject in there, whether you got chloroform or whatever, is 0.5. That's the minimum at the entry point. Wherever you inject it, if you inject it in before the standpipe and then out of the
Ain't
system.
this be a problem, I remember how it went, of course, we had.
Clyde knows, Clyde's done it before.
Sometimes
He
we couldn't
knows.
get it, they'd come up, sometimes let them and jump off one. People call that pink
It
water.
just depends on how
Couldn't
much
get water.
organics or anything that's in your system and how much that chlorine's used up. You know, if you have to, the minimum is 0.5 and at the entry point. If you have to bump it up, it's okay. As long as you maintain in the system 0.2 anywhere in the system. If I went up to that side of town and took a sample, it better read 0.2 as a minimum, okay? That's,
okay,
what I'm getting to is a scenario where we put in the chlorination capability, and we're giving samples and they're coming back clear, and the water doesn't need to be chlorinated.
doesn't matter. Once you put the chlorination in, it's mandatory. You will chlorinate permanently forever. Doesn't matter if you got clean water coming in or dirty water coming in, you will chlorinate, period. If the chlorination system's put in, it will be used and it will be, chlorinated water.
If we have to build a building, we'll have to coordinate. If we have to set up, so if they're gonna let us down, they'll let us down. But they're not gonna make us build, once we build that building, you might as well start, it's gonna happen.
Right.
And we're very fortunate that they're gonna let us do it at the time. If they do, they hadn't said that yet. If they make us put it up there on the hill, and it ain't enough money.
We gotta put a big fence around it too.
Huh?
You have to put a big chain link fence around it like at the water tower.
What?
If we put it on the hill instead of.
If we put it on the hill, yeah, there'd be about a $10,000 retention built up there, but we'll probably,
Yeah,
first place we
yeah.
try to do is get a lawsuit
Everything else.
behind us to get up there. And second place, we'll probably have to do the same thing, and get some property up there to build a retention.
Because you have to have a minimum contact time of 4 hours. Minimum contact time of 4 hours for chlorination.
But hopefully, look like we'll be able to put it at the store.
Right.
That's why you don't like to bring things up until you get a different, everybody wants answers. But if you speculate, they take it for the truth, and things change, they get mad if you don't tell them something, but if you speculate, then they get mad when they ain't right. And right now, as far as having, we're almost positive we found the source. We may be here, I always thought we found the source when we did the tire.
Right.
Well, it was right there at the tire, that's what throws everybody further, it's only 3 foot from the tire.
Right.
There's no way of testing between them 2 points.
Right.
And that's what was messing everything up, you know, you think it's in the tire, because you're only talking 5 feet, 10
most,
foot.
yeah. You're only talking about 5 feet.
So it can't be, and it's all brand new, it can't be that, so it's gotta be a tire. Well, there wasn't stuff in the tire, but that wasn't, and that was a good thing to clean out. And it's a good thing that we did, because
We
10 years from now, we'd have cleaned that tire and that broke, we'd been out for money.
Right.
We would never know that it was gonna do that. So it wasn't all bad that we drained the tire. We got it fixed that if we ever did it, someday that tire had to be drained again for some reason or another.
Oh, sure.
Expected something. Then it would grow, and Caldwell's warranty would have been up, and
It would have been us.
we'd be paying more. So everything ain't as bad, look, everything's happening good. Anything else? You guys want to take a break again?
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Carl.
We hit 6:30.
Yeah.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Alderman Buffet,
Here.
Alderman Cossey,
Here.
Alderman Franklin, here, Alderman Gerard.
Here,
approval of the agenda.
Make a motion, to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Approval of the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I second it.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Moving right along. New business, water fluoridation mandated by DNR and water rates. Well, let's see. We had the ordinance first. We met with the, a lot of you people wasn't here at the work session. Charlie Ray was here and explained why I can't give those things that he can, but between the board and myself, we can use most of it. But the chlorination there's a slim possibility that we might get out of it. We're pretty sure we found the source of the contamination. Even DNR are telling them what we found and what's happening and what we think caused it. They pretty well agree that they think we found it. But we still gotta go and keep moving just like we're gonna chlorinate, because we're under a mandate order. I just signed a letter, last week, week before, and within 30 days we had sent them a letter in, how we're gonna do it, what we're gonna do. So we had to keep operating, and these rates here are based on this new ordinance. We're gonna have a first reading tonight on the projected cost of chlorinating and operating the plant next year. If they don't have chlorination, then it will make some difference. Probably, I don't know how much for the bill every month, it'll make some difference. But we still have to pass it on, we still have to operate that we're gonna chlorinate. And we may have to, they may still make it. Even though we found the source, they could still make us chlorinate, we just don't know yet. But we're hopeful that we can get some good readings and make it out chlorinate. But they say we won't be alive. They say we will, you don't know, you just don't know. But we're doing everything we can and working at DNR and doing everything we can to get good samples and try to eliminate chlorinate. But someday every water plant system is going to chlorinate, but we're not ready to need it. We don't need the extra expense. Let's see here.
Do we get a copy of the bilateral compliance agreement?
Do what?
The bilateral compliance agreement?
Which one? The one we sent them?
The one that they sent us.
Oh, I can get that.
Yeah. And then I read that we had one in November, and I never heard of it or got to see it, or if we were in compliance with it or whatever. They said that this new one is superseding the previous one from November. They're pulling it and they're putting a new one in place.
We had one that we had temporary chlorinate.
It was in November.
I don't
No,
know.
we never had any indefinite chlorination, we had it hourly. It was lifted temporarily, but I can get you a copy of it. I'll get a copy for everybody on the board.
I don't need one, Joanne, I have one.
I'm sure I do too. Anybody else want to explain any more of this? You went through it to them out there? Anybody want to add anything to it? You can tell me the test you run and show that we probably found the problem.
Okay, on the 30th of April, I took what they call a ACP test, which is a heterocultural count of bacteria in the standpipe. And it was discovered, the test come back with 450 parts per million of bacteria in the sample that we took. We emptied up down the tank and filled it back in with fresh water and reduced the count to 44 parts per million. Then last night, Carl, myself, and Mr. Ullman climbed the tower. And
No, I didn't climb the tower.
well, I'm just saying, I'm just saying we were there to see that he wasn't going to get hurt. But Frankie Ullman climbed the tower and put 2 gallons of 5.25% bleach, household bleach, into the standpipe to disinfect the standpipe. And we flushed today. They got a residual count of 0.10 chlorine, which is very, very small, minute amount. So they flushed 20,000 gallons out today out of the hydrant out in the school field, and we refilled it with fresh water, and we'll get a second residual in the morning to see how much residual we have in the system. So we think, like Carl said, we think we found the problem with the chloroform bacteria. Had gotten in the altitude valve, what they call an altitude valve. That's what controls the level of the tower. And there was an open tube to the atmosphere. Because the pressure between the tank and what we was getting from the county was the same, which left that valve open, so they had to take that one tube off to make the valve work properly. And that's exposed to the atmosphere, so when it filled up with water and mud, then that's how possibly it got into the standpipe. At least that's what we suspect, that's what DNR suspects. So, if in fact, we still have to go, like Carl said, we still have to go with the plans to chlorinate. It's in order to keep in compliance, but after the plans are submitted and approved by DNR, then there is a possibility, if we can prove that we can keep clean water, we may not have to chlorinate, but it'll take a couple of months of good tests in order to, some really good testing to prove to DNR that we may not have to chlorinate. But we still have to stay in compliance with our letter that we received and that Carl signed. So if we can prove that we can do it, we may not have to. But then again, DNR can say, well, that doesn't matter, you're going to chlorinate anyway. So that's about all I can say. Carl,
I have a question. When you said Frankie went up and added chlorine to the water tower, how was it mixed? I know before you injected it as it was filling. How was it stirred or mixed?
Think when water coming in, water going out.
Yeah, and when we emptied the tower down and put fresh water in, that mixed it also. Besides, the specific gravity for bleach is greater than the specific gravity for water, so therefore it flows down by naturality because of the weight of bleach and the weight of water.
Can I ask a question?
No,
That's up to him.
No. Not till we
It's
get
pertinent
to-
to this.
I don't care, not till we get to the session where you can ask questions, not during the meeting, you know that. This is our meeting right now, when we get to that part of the meeting, write your question down and ask. But not during the meeting. Okay, then, that's all we plan on now. We'll keep you informed as we work with the DNR and everybody. They sound, they're very receptive to what the engineer and Dennis has told them and how it happened and what happened, and they see what could have happened. And they seem very receptive to it now, but that still don't mean that they're gonna say you don't have to. Read between between the lines, it sounds pretty good, but that's not the thing that's gonna happen. We gotta operate every day, that's like we're gonna have to start chlorinating right now. But we still got 180, well, we don't have that many now, we originally had 180 days that we had to be online before then. But it probably wouldn't take, if we really got kicked it in gear, 30 days to get set up to do it, if we get to do it at the time. If we don't, we can't meet it, it's a 180 day deadline. So when the lawsuit's just trying to get up there to pit, we can't get to our pit to work on with machinery. Because one of our good residents don't want it on one of the roads or family. So if that happens, the lawsuit's gotta be settled before we need to get up there to work on it. And I don't know any way to expedite in that condemnation. Okay, we'll move on then. But anybody got any ways, you just make a note of them, and when we go into the public forum, then we'll be glad to try to answer. Ordinance number 876, proposed water rate. Now,
I'll let,
go ahead.
I was gonna make a motion to have ordinance number 876 by title only. First reading.
Motion made, second, that. Ordinance number 876, proposed water rate, to read the title on it, for the first reading. You had to read the whole thing on it? Okay.
Oh, I thought they had copies.
Okay, back to the title on it.
Okay,
It's only one page. Okay. Motion made, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bill number 876, water rate schedule ordinance 876, an ordinance setting basic rates in the city of St. Mary's, Missouri for water service from the city waterworks system to be known as the water rate schedule ordinance. Be it ordained by the Board of Aldermen, city of St. Mary's, Missouri as follows. Section 1. The rates for water service to customers of the waterworks system of the city of St. Mary's, Missouri as follows. First 1,000 gallons, $23 minimum. Each 1,000 gallons thereafter, $10.75 per 1,000 gallons. Section 2. It is mandatory to review the rates, which funds operation and maintenance of water, so that rates can be adjusted accordingly for the maintenance of the system. Section 3. All ordinances or parts of ordinances conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed, and this ordinance replaces them. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and said rates shall be in effect on the water bill issued in June 2012.
You don't have to do anything.
This, due to public comment, even though it's a mandate, as we pass this is first reading. The next reading will be at the next meeting, whichever, or it'll be next month or 2 weeks, if we have a special, it'll be ready there. And it either be passed or failed. At the next schedule, next meeting, whenever we have it. And I'm looking at having a special in 2 weeks. So we got a sewer ordinance we got to pass too. In the work session, we discussed this quite a bit. And I will say this to you. That's what it takes to operate. If it took $5 less, it would be $5 less. But according to our water users and things, that's what it's going to take to operate. If we could pick up 50 more customers, if we could operate cheaper. But we don't. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to point out that, you say $23 minimum, and nobody knows that it was 18, so it's just a $5 increase. And then the additional gallons went from $8 to $10.75, so it's $2.75 increase. Just because people don't memorize,
Nothing wrong with that, that's a good thing.
to make it clear.
That's a good thing, there's nothing wrong with that. We talked about that in the work session, or them rates was brought up. Okay, sewer project today. The next thing we gotta do to bring the sewer project to date is, we got another ordinance there, but I don't remember exactly all the reason why, but it's not ready right yet, we got some things to do, but it's gotta be passed. And the water, I think, the ducks are all falling in line to get the sewer project fixed, done, get construction started. The next thing we have to do is pass it, or it's got a water usage, a rate increase, it's just based on your water usage. I believe, minimum state thing,
So, yeah.
and but the 1,000-gallon usage went from 5 to 750. The people that, it's not as bad as the water, but it's a necessary evil too. It's all mandated. All things get to be done is mandated. Yep. Really, that's a pretty good deal on the sewer, counting how many years it's been there and what we have to do to it. And a lot of that is, it's government stuff, because that UV, because somebody may fall in that river out there, and you gotta make sure it's 100% pure. You see, that's not even it, but if it's dumped into a stream that people get in, then you gotta meet this rule. And that's what it is. It's the government, not us.
If you can stick your foot in it, it's considered whole body contact. And it has to be disinfected before it gets up in your effluent.
Okay. We'll explain this some more at our next meeting, whenever it's been. I would almost say today that it's gonna be, 2 weeks. So sometime in the week after next, we'll probably have a special meeting to do the second reading on this, so we need to get this up there and get it moving, and the first reading on this one. And then 2 weeks later, it'll be finished. Okay.
And make a suggestion that you put on here what the rates are gonna be and what they were, so.
The ordinance
On the sewer,
It's in that ordinance, the rates.
should be.
Yeah, so.
no, this first one has it right on the front page, and I flipped
Well,
through to
this
see.
one here is sort of an ordinance that they kind of make up for the government. It's on page 3.
Okay. So it's 1055, and it was,
I think it was 10.
The minimum charge is the same. The other, the 1,000-gallon one, the 17. Is that right?
so the 750 was
Or 5.
5, so you're just talking 250 then.
Yeah. But that would be nothing in the ordinance. Not you pass an ordinance what the rates are, not what they were. To put that in the ordinance would be nothing. The ordinance is stated to establish your new rates. But to tell people there's no problem with that, but to put the language in the ordinance is served on purpose. Okay, departmental reports. Fire department.
As you know, we had our chief election last month, and ended up in a tie, so we're gonna, Farman didn't show up, so we're gonna have another election May the 21st on the chief election. We had our barbecue, which came out okay, but it was way down from the year before. And on our calls, we had 6 calls, 2 false alarm calls, 4 car alarms, car fire, traffic fire, and 2 medical calls. And we're getting, we had 7841 for what yellow flag worked on, and trying to get it.
I got a little bit to say on that. Is that all?
Yeah, that's all.
I worked up there at the barbecue, And I tell you, I'm pretty disappointed in a lot of citizens in this town. Everybody talks about unity, get together. The fire department is a non-political. Everybody should support it, whether you like it, who's in office or who's not. They're the most important function we got in this town. They keep our insurance rates where they at, they do everything. And I can't believe the people that I didn't see come up and even say hi to us. Appreciate what you're doing. Or they should come up and donate or buy it. You don't have to, that's your business. But you live in this town, in this community. And this fire department has nothing to do with politics. They fight fire. They have benefits to raise money to do the things and buy the stuff and function. And everybody in town, all the unity, I love this town, I want to be in this town, I love everything. Well, I didn't see the turnout. We had a lot of turnout. We had elected officials that wasn't there. But it don't hurt if you don't do nothing and come by and say, we appreciate you guys. 8, 10, 12 guys get called out during the night. We don't have very many fires in town. I can remember whenever we had a fire, we get 4 or 5 new firemen every time. And we load. But we ain't had very many fires. Thank God we don't. But they still meet, they practice, they go to school. It's hard to be a volunteer fireman now. You gotta have schooling. You can't just go in and do like we used to. Go up there and have drunk from a party and fight a fire. Now you gotta have all that training. It takes more time to learn how to put the uniform on than we had everything. Hey. But if this town can't support the fire department, I don't know what it's gonna go to. It was very important that they had a good turnout. You cannot speak during the session. There will be a time you can. And I was disappointed. And I was proud of the one that did. I see several people in this room that were there. I see several people in this room that was not there. And I'm sure some of them had good reason they couldn't be there. But there was a lot of people in this town that I've seen riding around town and doing things. They could have stopped by and didn't do nothing to say, we appreciate you guys. Because I do appreciate it. I see 4 or 5 guys over there that was on the fire department for 20 years, 30 years. They know what it is. And they appreciate them, and we appreciate them. So I would hope that we have another barbecue. In this town, the city of St. Mary's, we have 2 firemen. Rest of them all in the rural area. One of them sitting over there, that lived in this town 6 months, and one of them sitting there is almost 70 years old. There's 2 residents in this town that belong to this fire department. Now, I know there's some capable people in this town that belong to the fire department. They all want to be ready to help out this town, so get in there and help this town. There's a good place to start, the fire department, because there's no politics there. You don't have to worry about that. They don't get involved in politics. They come, work on equipment, have the benefits, and fight fires. And when we get to the public session, then public can talk. Right now, our board meeting is for the board. When we get into the other part, it's for you. Police department,
No report, Mr. Mayor.
park and cemetery.
The park and cemetery both look good. I don't have anything to report.
I have a question. We had the Easter extravaganza at the park. We had a good turnout. I was informed by our clerk that we had to pay a deposit and get a permit to use the park. And
Use the pavilion.
we didn't want the pavilion, we were just having an egg hunt. When we discussed it in work session before we passed the ordinance, I asked specifically, what about egg hunts? They wouldn't be using the electric. And he said, oh no, not community events, just if someone wanted to have a birthday party or a reunion or whatever, they wanted to reserve that park and have that pavilion with electric and the restrooms.
The church, they pay for that.
The Baptist church wasn't, I looked at the receipts, it says $15 and it wasn't.
That's all it is.
The Baptists had it the week before ours, and they had their signs still up when we got there. We had to pay the $15. I think they should too. This was for the Catholic Church, County Line Farms, CMA, the bed and breakfast.
I said, if you want the park, you have to do like everybody else. You cannot distinguish one organization from the other.
Well, you didn't. You didn't charge the Baptist
Who?
church.
Baptist church.
The Baptist Church paid their
I
fee.
looked on the receipts, it said one item of $15.
So,
It didn't
isn't that
show
what it is?
two. It didn't show that, it just showed that we paid it. It didn't show,
Did it show that your name on there?
it just said one payment of $15. And I
But
looked
she may
in
not
this
have
here too.
deposited. She
I
may not
looked-
have deposited.
I'm telling you, the Baptist Church paid their
I know,
$15.
they did, they came in.
It wasn't in the collector's report.
I'm telling you,
And
the
the treasurer's,
Baptist Church paid their $15. I will testify under oath that the $15 was paid for the Baptist Church egg hunt. Now, that's all I gotta tell you. Under oath, under penalty of law, I will testify that the Baptist Church paid their $15.
It wasn't in the collector's receipts.
I don't know how she put it in the report, and I'll get with her if she erred.
It wasn't
But
there.
the $15 didn't just come out of the sky,
Right.
and you had to pay it too.
Score paid it.
How was yours in there?
Huh?
How was your $15 in there?
It was Score. A member of Score paid it, so we could have restrooms to use. That's all we
that's
did
the
for a
ordinance.
couple hours.
That's the ordinance.
But when I
Well,
asked,
why did somebody else want to go for use for a couple hours? We distinguish one from another?
when I,
Everybody said they're an organization.
when I specifically asked that question at the work session about the ordinance, and you said it would not affect the egg hunts. And it was a recorded meeting, but
I'd have to pull up a recording or a minute to some first place in the work session, and what happens whenever an ordinance, work session is a discussion. An ordinance is fact.
Okay, enough said, please, let's go on, because, the $15 was paid by the Baptist Church, and you paid $15. Now, whether it was recorded or not is immaterial, the fact is, the money was there, both parties paid, and no more needs to be said, it's over and done with this dead issue.
Frank, I think we just go to her office tomorrow and check.
it's not in the reports, that's all I'm saying. If it was in the reports, I wouldn't be bringing it up.
It was paid.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention, Frank.
I
Appreciate
will make her, I will talk to her about her hair, which is all I can do. She's an elected official. She makes mistakes like some of ours do. Okay. Street,
Don't have much this month. There's one mowing, spraying, still working on that ditch up here, trying to get it cleaned up. It's done pretty good on it. Got a little more to go. So I won't have it right now.
water and sewer.
We had a few service calls, and the rest has been said already.
Animal control,
Nothing to report.
emergency management. And,
The only thing I have is that, the county has 5 water purification, pumps that they can use, that pump about 3 gallons a minute through several filters to purify the water. So if the only time they're gonna be used is if the roads are inaccessible into town, like they're flooded or earthquake and you can't get in here and you can't use water, then we will be able to use these water purification, which, have been tested to purify the water down for drinkable water, not be used in our distribution system, but we can take like our water from the tower and purify it through these
we
filters.
can take it from the creek.
Or you can take it from the creek, exactly. They're placed several places around town. There's one in Washington County, there's one in St. Genevieve, there's one in, I think Franklin County or something like that over there, and another one up north.
There was a pretty good article in the local newspaper about that.
And,
They had a training class and everything.
went to the training class to learn how to set it up and everything, so.
Okay.
Anyway, I just wanted, that was part of the emergency thing, so I thought I'd throw it in there, and I apologize, Carl, if I ran out of place.
Have a question. If we were to voluntarily put a precautionary boil order on until our water is clear of coal form, It would release the city from liability from someone, seniors, infants, those with weak immune systems, having health issues with the water. If they were warned, then they wouldn't be able to have a class action suit against the city or sue the city because they didn't know that drinking that water could compromise
What the
their
hell
health.
are you talking about? We notify them every time we got bad water. We do it immediately when we find out. The last time we had bad water, when less than 2 hours, we had notice in every house in this town.
That was with the E. coli. I'm
That's
talking.
the E. coli or anything else. Now, if there's an earthquake, I doubt if I can get anybody that walk around here, because they're probably trying to help themselves. There ain't gonna be no water anyhow, probably. There ain't gonna be no water. Don't be ridiculous.
I'm not. I'm
Yeah, they
saying
are.
they-
Whenever, if we can, we notify.
Our
If there's
water-
a disaster, we probably can't.
Our water is not, it has contamination.
What?
Our drinking.
Right now?
Right now.
Drink it every day and I ain't
Coli form
gonna
positive, true or false?
there is no danger of our water to be drank. If there was, we would be under a ball of water. I have not, you get me one person, one doctor that said our water made somebody sick. You get it for me. Don't speculate. Don't say my constituents said they were sick. You get them to get their doctor to give us a statement that says our water made them sick. Until you do, I don't believe it. We're through.
Notices-
No, we're done.
No, Mr. Mayor, please.
No, we're done.
When we give out those notices, it says on there that seniors, infants, those with weak immune systems may be at increased risk, consult your doctor. Those notices are given out a month after the fact. I'm saying let's put it out there now
We can't give it out till we get the test, we get the second test.
You've been getting notices.
We got a notice in there right now to go out. And we put a notice out, at the couple times we was late. But mostly we're timely. We do everything the law requires. This notice that we got going out, there's nothing in that water that's gonna make you sick. But it just takes a minute amount to get in there. I have not had one person to call me and said they got sick drinking our water. I have people that say they don't drink it. And I question that.
If we did a precautionary order, it would protect the
we
city
do.
and the people.
I'm gonna tell you one more time and we're gonna move on. We do everything the law tells us to do to the T. Now, we may not do everything Frank wants done because all he gotta do is sit up there and try to come up with something. But we do everything, we do not violate the law intentionally. Like anybody, we may make a day mistake.
For one thing, Frank, I can tell you one thing. Excuse me, Carl, for interrupting.
No,
I'll say this once and once only. It's my license, my responsibility. The only one in this town that can put a precautionary boil water on is me. Period. It's my license. If somebody gets sick, it's on me. Yes, he's the owner, but I'm the only one that can make any kind of changes to the system. And if you don't believe that, you call DNR and check with them. Now, I'm not going to say no more. I'm done.
We're gonna move into the citizen participation. I see some people here that's never been here before. This time it has. You have 3 minutes. Time limit can be extended by the board only. I mean, they can extend it. I can't extend it. Well, I'll let you know when your 3 minutes are up. If the board wants to extend it, they can. If they don't, then you raise your hand. If you want to speak, I'll recognize you. And you can talk about what you've heard here tonight. As long as it's something to do with the city. We don't want, last night's party or nothing like that, but if it's something to do with the city, we'll be glad to listen to it. And we will attempt to give you an answer or get back with you. Okay? I got it. You may think it's silly on the 3 minutes, but that's the ordinance. And so, who's first? Not everybody one time, there you go. Okay.
I'm Ann Smith. First of all, I have kind of a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer it, and I'm not really posing it necessarily to you, because I prefer to talk to the board. I want to ask this question as rhetorical. You don't have to answer. Why do you have Rosenberg rules of orders if you won't follow them? The mayor's position is to facilitate understanding between the board and the people. And when he shuts us down and will not allow us to ask questions that are pertinent to what's being discussed on the board, then that just, that is not facilitating understanding. But my question is, right now, is to Mr. Beauvais. I would like to know, where is that valve located that you were talking about that has to do with the air getting into the,
It's just before the standpipe.
is it in the air, is it underground?
It's underground.
It's
It's
underground.
just before, it's in a pit. It's in a concrete vault, what we call a concrete vault. It's like a manhole, and it's inside that vault that's exposed to the environment.
That's exposed to it, so it's an altitude valve that's open to the air, and that's how the fecal coliform gets in the water line. Is that,
Chloroform, not fecal chloroform.
it's fecal coliform that we get notification of all the time.
No, it's coliform. C-O-L-I-F-O-R-M. That's coliform, not cup. It's not E. coli. E. coli is a whole
No.
different bacteria.
Fecal coliform, that's what it's called on the notices that you send out.
Fecal chloroform, if we had fecal chloroform, you'd be under a boil water. It's a different bacteria
They
altogether.
had it once.
We
You had E. coli once, yes.
once.
Fecal coliform still shows up every time you take tests.
No, coliform, not fecal.
What is the difference? Tell me what the difference of coliform and a fecal coliform.
Fecal chloroform comes from warm-blooded animals, okay? The chloroform that they're testing is indicators that's in the air, it's on your hands, it's everywhere, okay? But it's not supposed to be in the water. It's an indicator that there might be a problem somewhere.
So if I brought you those notices that we received, if you notice we received that say fecal coliform, you would say that was not true.
I would, because we don't have fecal coliform in our water. If we did, we'd be under a boil water. Okay?
No, it's not okay, because that's not what you say on the papers. But if that's what you're saying, there's no more being said, because we're not going anywhere with it. So I appreciate that you let me speak. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Yeah? You give your name.
My name is Michelle Holland, and I live at 968th Street in the St. Mary Apartments. And one comment I wanted to make about the fire department barbecue, I really wanted to go. And as I remember, I only saw 2 or 3 signs driving on 61, and none of them had a time. I didn't know what time that barbecue started. I didn't know what time that barbecue ended. I didn't know if there was a cover charge of like $5, eat as many hamburgers as you want, or if it was purely donation. There just wasn't enough information for somebody who's brand new to St. Mary. That was one comment I wanted to make, because I really wanted to go. And I think I had to work that day, or there was a function going on in my church. And that's why I didn't make it, because it was on my calendar to do it. Water rates, on this paper saying that 1,000 gallons is $23 minimum. We just had our maintenance man come to our apartment complex, checking all of our toilets, because apparently the apartments used more water than they've ever used before. And so is that $23 per unit, 1,000 gallons per unit? So it's 12,000 gallons times $23 times 12 for them to pay? Is that what the increase
Every
is?
unit has to pay, don't, ain't they needed each unit?
Well, they pay our water for us, but what
Oh,
I'm
I
saying
don't know.
is that the measurement? Is 1,000 gallons per of the 12
It
units?
should be figured out.
Just curious, because I didn't know, and I don't know if she knows if there's an increase, I wanted to let her know. And then, water boil order conversation that was going on in different places and stuff. I've only lived in St. Mary since the beginning of January, and I've only received 1 boil order during that period of time. And I'm wondering, how long has this been a problem? How many boil orders have gone out? And I don't know why people are having an issue with this gentleman's conversation, but, and I did hear you say that you did put some of those orders out late. I don't know if it's right, wrong, indifferent, I don't care. But as a resident, I would like to know if there's anything in my water that I should know about. I would want to know about it ahead of time and let me choose whether I want to boil or not. But I would want to know that there is an issue and it's being tested and whatever ahead of time, not after the fact. Because since I found out about it, I bought, I don't know how many cases of bottled water, because I don't know. And I did get sick in January. I was not sick before I moved to St. Mary. I don't know if it was from the water. I don't care if it was from the water. I don't, I just want to know if there needs to be a boil order. I agree that it should be put out before, just as a precaution. That's my only comment on that.
You want to respond, you want me to?
Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
A fall water order, you will be notified immediately. Now, under the government rule, chloroform is not a fall water order. Chloroform, what we put out, if it gets the number that had to be bought, it would be it. It's not supposed to be harmful to you. If it's chlorine, then you want to take your own precaution, you can. We notify as we're supposed to. If we felt it should make people sick, but we go by government guidelines. And we can't run around and pass out bills when the government says it's not necessary. We do it when it's necessary and when we're told to. Now, the water is a political issue in this town. We have a problem. And people say they don't drink it. And I didn't even quit drinking during these cold eyes because I knew the next test was good. But we had to keep the boiled water in fact for 6 weeks or whatever it was, 5 weeks till the chlorine got out of the system, even though the E. coli wasn't there before we could lift the boiled water. It was probably the treatment we did, if we had E. coli, killed the E. coli, but then the chlorine was there, and they wouldn't give us a lift till the chlorine got out to prove that the E. coli was gone. Even though the bleach or whatever you want to call it, chlorine was killing it. Once the chlorine got out, we got a good reading. It had been gone all the time, but we couldn't lift the boiled water order because there's a possibility that E. coli was still in the water, just the chlorine was killing it. But once the chlorine got gone, then the E. coli wasn't there, then we could lift the boiled water.
When was it lifted?
I don't know, about 5 weeks after we put it on.
We put a notice on everybody.
On doors. We carried it.
Before Thanksgiving.
Okay, because I received one after I moved here in late January or early
It
February.
was like, we went under 5 weeks, we couldn't lift the boiled water order, even though the test didn't show no E. coli.
Right.
But you had to get the chlorine out of the water to
Right.
prove that there was no animal feces or anything, blood stuff
Right.
in there, and there wasn't.
Right,
But until you get that out, you can't prove it.
right.
And once we proved it was lifted, then we got some good readings, and then we had the problem with the other thing come up.
Okay, I have a question about the 3-minute thing,
Your 3 minutes is up,
but I have a question about why it's 3 minutes. And
because that's the ordinance.
Right. My question about it is, I get 3 minutes to ask a question. While someone is answering my question, that 3 minutes should not count down towards me because they're
No,
talking.
we won't answer your question, your 3 minutes is up. And we'll go right answer it all one time.
I don't have 3 questions, so do I get 9 minutes?
Go right, no, you don't get 9 minutes. You got no questions.
No, I'm
If you
just,
got another question, ask it.
if I come to another meeting, all I'm saying is, when someone's answering my question, is that part of my 3 minutes?
Well, I'm going to answer that question right now. When you come to another meeting, there will not be a word spoken to you till your 3 minutes are up. We will not use up any of your 3 minutes. And then we will answer, whoever's going to answer what you ask, and we will answer your question.
Okay. What if I?
We will not use up your 3 minutes.
What if I have a question about your comment to my?
The board can only extend you will not talk anymore after your 3 minutes unless the board says you can.
Okay,
That's the law, that's the ordinance.
okay.
Only the board can, I can't extend it. I've done it. I've done violated the ordinance myself, that's it.
Okay.
Make a motion to give her an extension.
Oh, I'm good for tonight, I think.
The motion gonna make it happen.
Right. It's 2 motions and a vote, I got it.
Okay.
I got it.
Anybody else?
Can I ask you a
Holland.
Yes.
Sorry, Joanna.
Anybody else? Yeah.
Lucy Collins, I have a question as far as the cemetery goes and everything. I was just wondering if something happened up there. I visit a lot of cemeteries and things like that, and I noticed that a lot of the stones and things are tilted over, and I didn't know if it was a natural disaster that happened on one particular side, or if it was just some teenagers up there goofing around, or
I don't
It
know.
just seems like a lot of damage that had happened on the one side as opposed to anywhere else.
Wait a
Can
minute.
I say something?
Hold on.
We're 3 minutes.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, and I was just gonna say that if anybody would like, I would be more than happy to go up there and help try to piece back together or anything. I know it's all, but it's part of history and everything else, and I would be willing to help locate the original residents and things like that before anything at all is touched and moved and everything, because some of the people, their relatives and everything else are no longer around, and they don't deserve to be in the pieces that they are there.
When did you get the first shot? When did first?
I don't know because I just took over. I mean, I just became an alderman, so I'm not really sure what's happened. But I have went up there and I have seen it myself, and I have talked to Carl about it to see what we can do to maybe fix it. And I was told that it's not the city's responsibility, it's the family's responsibility to take care of them tombstones. That's what I was told.
I want to say one thing I'll get you, buddy. You could wind up in trouble messing with somebody else's grave. I understand where you're coming from, but I understand people too. But some of them headstones are 120 years old. Time that they just went. There's several of them up there. I don't remember us having a big vandalism. But we've had storms, we've had trees. Both of these is from trees falling and limbs and things and just time. And I don't know. I mean, we would be glad to work with you in any way we can. I'm sure Brenda, we appreciate anything you can do to work with her and help you. And we would do anything that we can within our limitations.
Well, right, and
But
then,
you still have to be careful, because them are private graves and
Right.
private people.
and that's why I said you have to work with the families when you do things like this, because I've visited a lot of cemeteries around the country and things, and
Frank
it's,
wants to say something.
I said, I had a question about that when I was over the cemetery department, and branches got iced up and fell. And the middle section is the city's, and the one on each side is a Catholic cemetery that has perpetual care, where the city's doesn't. And, you know, on one side of the Catholic cemetery, there's what I consider an embarrassment, the black segregated section that's mud and leaves and weeds, and not maintained like the other parts. And I've complained about it, I've had promises made about it getting taken care of, and it never was. So,
it's quite,
it's going on for years.
if you go to different places and you see the way different people are treated, and what people have to remember is, even though they're in the ground, they're still a person. They're just not above the ground.
You know, and I see veteran flags there, and it just breaks my heart to see that they will be dishonored like that.
Exactly. So that's why I was just wondering, and there's different stonework to do when we put the stones back together if the family chooses to do that. So,
They pretty well said everything else.
I just didn't want it to seem like I was gonna go up there and just start throwing it all together. and tell them what I was doing, that's all.
Like I said, we take care of the city, the church, Catholic Church, take care of the Catholic Church, there's a line between them. But it happens, what you can do. I mean, I got a baby been dead for 40 years. My parents have been dead. Their heads don't get low. We call, we make them have to have them raised and set up. I mean, it's just part of being a family member, and headstones deteriorate.
Right.
If it's a two-piece, the glue goes bad. And it's up to the family. To go in there and do it, you have to do it with kid gloves. Most of you couldn't get a hold of it, probably wouldn't nothing, but some of them couldn't fix it. If you did, you'd have to be a professional too. But I have no problem, but I can't say you go up there and set up people's headstones and glue them back together. I can't say it.
No, it's not like going through a super glue and pop and just going down.
And a lot of them you can't even read, because when we were up there last week, we tried to read some of them.
Anybody else? Anybody? Feel free, time's now. Anybody want to respond to anything about that? Okay,
Mr. Mayor,
you've been looking at it.
I have a question. Glenn was talking about getting mud in the floor of the shop. He said it had just started recently. Was it coinciding from when they put the layer on the road there?
Through the years, I've had a problem, but it seems now there's no ditch at the bottom, so it all has to come across the street. But that erosion, right next to your property is where that is coming from. There's nothing to hold the dirt, there's no vegetation whatsoever.
Oh, you're talking about a big drop off?
Yeah.
Yep, there's a big wash, have you been up there and looked at it?
And it's on the other side of my fence, I can see where it drops down. You can't walk down there because you'll fall. It drops like a sinkhole almost.
So something's gonna have to be done as far as vegetation or something or reroute the water or something. That's the problem.
And we have been working on it. I'm sure you've seen about 4 of us up there by your house the other day looking at it. If you did, you should have, because your dog barked enough, you should have known we was out there. And we looked at it, and it's not a simple issue to resolve. You go from church to city to private to, there was, I don't know, about 5 of us up there. All the chamber members was up there, and the church members. And we're trying to come up with a solution, we're gonna try to take care of it, but it is a problem. I know, I have a problem down here. Only thing, it just comes down my driveway, my gravel driveway, it comes much better. But we are working on it, it is a problem, there's so much asphalt up there, and once they hit too fast, it's eroding. But I think you'll see something moving up there before long, with the combination of the city, the church, and probably the chamber. We'll probably get something worked out.
Well, there's on Pine Street a drainage that goes right along the corner of the bank. If we can put a drainage ditch to curve around,
No,
the
that's,
city has like so many feet from the street.
the ditch ain't the problem, we can fix the ditch. The problem is getting the water to the ditch without any river. The simplest thing in the world, but we can't, is put a curb right down, all the way in front of your house, all the way down the edge of that, and the water goes where it used to go. But then you couldn't get in your driveway. The water has been diverted. There used to be 2 ditches there, a curb and thing. So a lot of it went down the other side, but that don't happen no more. But over the years, it's run off and run off and run off, and finally it gave way. And now, instead of water coming down, it's mud coming down. Clem, for 10 years, he's had some mud problem. He's always had mud problem. So Bobby Bottles over there, Ellis came in his office before over the years, water come down off that hill. But it's different now, it's almost all mud. You can't stop the gully washing. But it don't take much of a rain now to wash mud all the way across and get dry. There's a problem up there, and we're working on it. If nobody else wants to, if you feel like.
Thank you. I had a question about, it has to do with the water rate increase, trying to understand a little bit. Are we looking at any other expenditures? I mean, when you look at your home budget, if you're spending more than you are taking in, then you have to cut some places. Are we looking at any of that, or are we just gonna flat out go to everybody and say, you gotta give us more money? Because, I mean, if I overspend my budget, I can't go to my neighbor and say, give me some money, because I'm out. I mean,
Are you done?
no, I got a couple, that's just kind of saying, you mentioned it yourself, that you're on a fixed income, many people are, or they're low income that live in this area. And that's, it's not a lot of money, it adds up though. And, we have, everything else is costing us too, so, this is something that we can look at, some of the things that are in the budget that maybe could be trimmed? Okay, thank you.
We're not like a household. The government is financing part of it, we're paying part of it. They tell you water only. You can cut out something on your grocery bill or something over here, but we can only use water funds for water funds. We can't cut out, turn off 2 street lights, and I can't mandate that you can't have water on Tuesdays. Or, you know, something like that. It's not that simple. Or like a grocery bill, you can cut back a little bit to make your whole budget come together. We are mandated that our water has to support our water. And we have to do the things they tell us. Now, everybody, most people in this town wanted us to go to, we had to get different water. We would have them. We went to it. It's going to cost us. But I venture, if you go to some of these other communities away from here, people that got water and sewer, you're going to find that we're somewhere in the neighborhood. But our problem is we don't have enough usage. You know, it's kind of like a big city, you know, it costs as much us to fix the street as it does them. They got more streets, but they got more money. But it's not like a household budget. A budget is, we got budgets, but each department is budgeted. So whatever we cut, it has to be water. And the only way I know to cut water is say you can't have water on certain days, or, you know, it takes, we only got one water employee, even though they fine and both work different. I don't know what we could change it. Because we have to send them all kinds of reports and things. They even have to review all of our expectations and okay this. And they always leery that you're not charging enough. And I'm going to say this again. I said it in work session, and over the years, and I've been married for several years, and we never would raise the water rate enough to generate extra income to do the things that should have been done. We worried about raising too much and being a burden on the people. And we wouldn't do it. I sat in the meeting and told the government agent one day, you're crazy as hell, we ain't going to do it. Now we're paying the price for not doing what they tell. If they say these rates, if you got to have a 10% surplus, you need to do it. Well, you can maintain your system and do it like they want it done. Because if you don't, you're going to come right back like we did, and your whole system's going to be going down, and there's no money there because you wouldn't do what they told you to do. You have to raise your rate to operate your system. And we never would do it before. And I was a big hawker. I know we did wrong. We thought we were doing the citizens good, but we hurt them. And we can't make that mistake again. We got to maintain enough money to do this system right. Go ahead.
One example, just to give you just one example. These tanks are to be inspected and sanitized every 1 to 3 years, okay? In order to do that, that costs money. And these tank people that come out and inspect your tank and do whatever, sanitize or whatever, clean it, whatever, charge you buku amount of money. Now, we're setting aside money right now aside in a special fund to take care of things like that. Because if we had to put it all out at once, we don't make enough revenue right now to do something like that. To have that tank inspected, to have it repainted if we needed to, whatever it takes. And that's a requirement by DNR. So if we don't have the money set aside to do that, then it all has to come out at once. That's just one example. God forbid anything else were to happen.
Has anybody that hadn't spoken have anything to say? Anybody that hadn't spoken? You got 2 minutes.
I got less than 2 minutes. I would like to know, is there anybody in this town that has land that's gonna donate that land or get paid for the use of that land to put a cell site in this town so that we actually get a cell signal in this town?
You got a tower right outside town.
Cemetery.
That tower right there at the cemetery. You want to see a signal?
I'm gonna signal.
I got one.
I'm gonna signal.
You ain't got your friend there. See, all companies ain't gonna come in this town. Yeah, I ride you, and I'm not pushing Sprint because I get into it with them all the time. You know, move into a different area, my wife has AT&T. We got a place, hers works there, mine works here, works out great.
Okay.
But I would advise you to stay here to get a, even though I argue with Sprint, to get a Sprint phone. So this phone will work almost everywhere in town. Now, I'm down in one bar in the building.
We did call AT&T about a month ago, and they told us they were doing something to the tower out on the Ozora Outer Road, but I don't think it's helped anybody here, and they don't plan to do anything here.
Well, I heard somewhere since I've lived here that if someone who owns property was willing to donate that much space to put a tower, that the phone company actually pays that person like $400 a month, like lease, in order to have a tower actually put inside the city limits somewhere.
But what they pay, I guarantee you, there's 50 people around here would be glad to leave them the ground. Or they pay great, they don't want it. I got 28 of it, Clint.
I think twice I've notified AT&T, offered my 3 lots up there to put a cell tower in exchange for internet. Told them I wouldn't worry about the lease, give me free internet. If you want to put a tower up there, gave them the longitude and latitude and everything. They were going to research it and everything. Never heard a word from them since.
Well, it's good to know.
Clint,
That answered it pretty well.
did I see you with your hand back?
Yeah, I was just gonna respond to her. We have AT&T and we called them a few days ago because he was having trouble with his phone. And they said they were going to try and boost the signal as much as they could. But also on your phone, if you switch it over, I don't know what you have, 3G, 4G, whatever. But
None of that.
you don't have none of that?
No, I'm not
Oh,
in that
okay, well,
spot,
then I
so.
can't help you there.
Right.
So,
Anybody else? And now a motion to adjourn being over.
I make a motion to.
I second it.